Okay, next chapter, trigonometric functions review. So again, read the review sheet, check out all the methods before you watch all the notes, or vice versa, or both, or whichever. Okay, so let's take a look at this main formula here in the center of the top. Sure, I use sine, but above I showed you can use sine or cosine. So the A is going to be an amplitude, and that's actually a multiplication of the y values, so also called a vertical expansion from chapter 1. B contributes to the period, and the period is calculated by P equals 2 pi over B for sine and cosine, and remembering down below for tan, the period of tan is pi over B. And C, we've seen that from quadratics. Inside the brackets, we go phase shift, left and right. And then we've seen plus is outside of the brackets again in quadratics 11 and in polynomials. Goes up and down horizontally, shifts it up and down. A couple of English sentences to remember. Always factor the brackets, so x has a coefficient of 1. And that was a method that we learned from transformations. And sine starts on the center line and goes up, starts on the y-axis on the center line and goes up or down. And cosine starts on the y-axis on the top or the bottom and goes down or up, respectively. And I'm just going to draw their graphs for fun off to the right, which, you know what, they should be here anyways. Or the flips and the negatives and the vertical reflections and all that. And then some things to remember about tan. Tan is 0 when sine is 0. And tan is undefined when cos is 0, because tan theta is equal to sine theta over cos theta. So when the top is 0, the answer is 0, unless the bottom is also 0. When the bottom is 0, it's undefined. And that's where we're going to get our non-permissible values from, which we spoke about before. We'll talk a lot about domain and x-intercepts and range and how do you get all the different formulas. But I can't tell you enough. Logic, spatial ability, geometry, quadrants, quartiles, breaking things in half, breaking things in quarters. And then there's a whole bunch of transformation formulas down below. But if you really, really like math, you can actually just work on them, getting back and forth using trig identities and different properties of sine and cosine, even in odd functions. We'll get into that later. So that's the formula sheet for trigonometric functions. Once again, big red at the top. We're going to be looking at this formula, and we're going to be changing the amplitude and talking about the period and the phase shift and the horizontal center line.